It is 2 o'clock. Welcome, everyone watching. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Living Room Theater, episode 17. Wow, we're really doing it. I am your host, Sam. I'm your host, Sam Sommer, and today we are reading Chaplin and Keaton on the set of Limelight by Greg Lamb. Here we have our lovely cast. Playing the role of Charlie Chaplin is Ryan Pangracs. Playing the role of Buster Keaton is Nicky Maddalina. Playing the role of Beverly is Paige Cummings. And playing the role of the girl, Claire Bloom, and Oona Chaplin is Caroline Turner. Yeah. One thing you should know, this is a free show series, but we do accept donations. Right on the description, you'll see our donations for our showcase, for our senior showcase. We're going to Chicago to perform after COVID, obviously. And a portion of our proceeds go to a certain foundation. And today's the last day for our Black Arts Networks, foundation. We just received last week a $25 donation from Anonymous, so thank you to that person. Another thing about the casting is Ryan and Nicky are doing double time as Charlie and Buster because they're also playing their on-screen personas. Charles Chaplin plays the Tramp, and Buster Keaton is also Stoneface. And with that, we shall begin. Act 1, Scene 1. The Dumb Show. At Rise, 2 pianos, one stately grand piano, black, shiny, and elegant, the other a humble, upright, wooden, and worn. We see a title projected onto a movie screen in the silent movie tradition. Charles Chaplin enters, Natalie dressed in an impeccable tuxedo. He's not the Chaplin that the world knew and fell in love with. This Chaplin is an old man, hair silver and neatly trimmed, clean-shaven, dapper and cultured. He acknowledges the audience and sits at the grand piano and plays. His music is classical, elegant, and beautiful. Chaplin is an accomplished pianist. The Tramp, Charlie Chaplin's famous silent persona, and the girl sit at a dinner table where they talk energetically. The Tramp impales 2 bread rolls on forks and clears the table in front of him. He then pretends to the impaled rolls are feet and does his famous dance from the Gold Rush to the music of Chaplin's playing. Buster Keaton enters, watches the scene, laughs along with the audience at the antics. He's an older man, dressed in his comedy outfit, pork pie hat, slap shoes, etc. The Tramp finishes, the girl applauds. Chaplin finishes with a musical flourish. Buster moves to the upright piano and starts playing. Chaplin and the Tramp exit and Stoneface enters to play a scene with the girl at the table. Stoneface is Buster's comedy persona. Buster sits at the upright piano and plays a jaunty, ragtimey, energetic tune. Stoneface tries to make small talk with the girl. The girl grows bored with Stoneface and takes out a compact and starts adjusting her face in the little mirror. Stoneface is put off by the girl's ignoring him. After she is done, Stoneface asks for the compact, which she gives him. He then smears on some shaving cream, pulls out a razor blade, and starts shaving. The girl snatches her compact back and leaves the restaurant. Stoneface sulks, then leaves as well. Buster, now alone on stage, finishes his piano playing with a flourish. He stands up, unsteadily, takes a flask of whiskey from his pocket, takes a long swig.
That was a long time ago. Hello, Charlie. Thank you for asking me to be in your picture. Maybe after this one is done, we can talk about another project. That'll never work. Charlie, it's been such a long time, my friend. You look so wonderful still.
Scene 2, the makeup room. Claire Bloom rushes in sobbing violently. She is followed by Charlie Chaplin, who rushes in after her. Claire speaks with a measured, high-class British accent, even when agitated.
Claire, listen to me. Listen to what I have to say. I am sorry that you're hurt, but I'm making a movie. We are making a movie. You must understand, when I am in the middle of a production, everything else in my life must become secondary. Don't turn away, listen. That scene is the emotional center of this film. It requires that you burst out into tears, that you be very genuinely emotional. That's why I said the things that I said. I needed the effect, and it had to be perfect. When your children and your grandchildren one day hear the name Charles Chaplin, I want them to think of you and me and that scene in Limelight.
You could try letting me act for once.
Claire.
Charles, no one has ever directed me like you do. You show me what to do and expect me to duplicate it. You terrorize me and then you ignore me. I don't know what's coming next. I don't understand it. I don't understand any of it.
It's simply the way I work. I can't change after 5 decades.
But I can't be you. Don't you understand? No one can be Charles Chaplin but Charles Chaplin. No one can live up to your standard. And when you make me do the same scene over and over again so many times in front of everyone, I feel like shouting or crying. Will I ever be adequate? Will I ever please you?
Claire, you must know that you are doing a wonderful job. If you were not, I would have had you replaced by now. I don't have any qualms about that, you know. I once replaced an actress after an entire year's work when she displeased me.
What did she do?
She asked for time off the shoot to get her hair done. We were to film the closing shot of City Lights the next day. It was the most emotional and difficult scene I had ever attempted, and she had the gall to ask for a day off to set her hair right? It was goodbye and farewell to her.
So let me see if I understand you. You are trying to comfort me by saying that you can have me replaced at any time without warning?
I'm not going to have you replaced. You're doing a remarkable job. And if I were displeased with you, I would let you know in no uncertain terms. Now, do you feel better?
Yes, Charles. Thank you.
They embrace politely. After a knock on the door.
Mr. Chaplin?
Yes.
Beverly, a production assistant, enters. She's wearing non-glamorous work clothing.
The boys are ready for the next scene when you are.
Wonderful. Just give us some time to compose ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Beverly.
Yes, Mr. Chaplin?
Has Mr. Keaton appeared yet?
No, not yet, sir. I didn't think he was coming today.
I thought it was today. Well, if he does appear today, make sure to let me know.
Right away, Mr. Chaplin.
Come on, let's get you cleaned up.
Who is that person you're waiting for, Charles?
Keaton. Buster Keaton. He's the chap who will play my comedy partner in the scene tomorrow.
Oh, well, I hope he's funny then. What is it now, Charlie?
What has become of this godforsaken world these days?
Whatever do you mean?
Quietly, Buster enters, unseen by Chaplin and Claire, carrying a suitcase. He listens, stone-faced, to the conversation, giving no hint that he is there. Chaplin searches for his bag for a photo.
That everyone could forget so easily.
Chaplin finds the photo and hands it to Claire.
There. That's him. You honestly don't know who Buster Keaton is?
He's so young. I thought the role called for a washed-up has-been.
Well, that's him. I mean, that's an old photo. He's close to my age.
Did he work for you in your silent movies? That was a long time ago.
Young lady. Back in the 1920s, there was no more original comic mind than the one resting on Buster Keaton's shoulders. He didn't make the most money, of course, but he was unquestionably the most formidable of them all.
What, better than you?
I didn't say he was better than I, just more original. You see, back then there were entire months when my cameraman would come back to work in the morning, bleary-eyed and sleepy-headed. What in heaven's name has happened to you, Rolly? I asked. Charlie, I was up last night watching the late showing of Keaton's new movie, trying to figure out how he does it. I've seen it 16 times now, and I still don't have a clue. The man's a genius.
Well, if Keaton was so brilliant, then why isn't he working today? These small cameos can't pay his rent.
It's a bit of a sad story. His marriage fell apart rather famously. He drank himself into a stupor, and then the fool let himself lose creative control of his own movies. Can you imagine that? Later on, I saw him toiling away in the third-rate productions, horrible two-reelers, where he was the only thing worth watching. The last I heard of him, the poor fellow had been kicked out of some circus in Paris.
How nice, then, that you're throwing him a rope. Or a bone.
Well, he certainly can do this part. That is, if the man's sober.
I must say that he bears a certain resemblance to the character that you play in this movie.
How do you mean?
Well, your Calvero character in this movie is a washed-up entertainer ruined by drink and obscurity.
And so is Keaton, I see. Well, I assure you it's completely coincidental.
From off stage, Beverly's voice calls.
Mr. Chaplin!
Chaplin calls without looking. Buster is amused.
Not yet. Tell the boys we'll be there soon.
Is there something the matter, Charles?
I do hope I haven't erred in hiring Keaton. Such a sad case, I know. When I heard about him getting kicked out of that circus, how low can one get if one really works at it? Even someone like him, a true genius, there's no telling if the man has anything left.
Mr. Chaplin.
We're not ready yet. How many?
Chaplin turns and sees Buster, a look of pure shock. Claire looks too. Suddenly, Chaplin breaks into a wide grin, stumbles to his feet.
Mr. Keaton, Buster, how excellent you look. What a surprise.
I do have a few miles left in the tank, Charlie.
Yes, but how? So fit. You look very well. Last I heard, you were toiling away.
I know, but those circuses pay better than you might think, Charlie, especially the French ones.
Knuckles looks Buster up and down. The girl realizes that Buster has overheard their conversation and is horrified. Beverly enters.
Hey, Mr. Chaplin, I think this Buster fella. Oh.
Thank you, Beverly. But as it turns out, not needed. You may, however, want to visit Wardrobe and tell them that he's arrived.
Right away.
Wardrobe, what's wrong with what I'm wearing?
You are a vision indeed. The floppy hat, the baggy pants, the slap shoes, just like the old days. Like you're 25 again. But we're not playing our old characters anymore, Buster. I'm not the tramp today, and you are not you.
Who are we then, Laurel and Hardy?
You must be Buster.
Good afternoon, miss.
Hello.
How negligent of me. Buster, meet Claire Bloom, the very talented leading lady of our little company.
Lovely to meet you.
Charmed. A very lovely girl.
Never you mind. And of course, Buster Keaton, a comedy legend.
You make it sound like I'm already dead when you say things like that. So what's this dang movie about anyway?
We'll get to that later. Come, we have some catching up to do.
You know, Charlie, I was thinking maybe after this thing we should talk a little.
Oh?
You see, I have some ideas.
Chaplin leads Buster off stage. Claire looks at Keaton's headshot, shrugs, and sets it down and leaves. The girl comes out and addresses the audience. During the speech, she notices the two players in the background and becomes increasingly annoyed at their antics.
In 1951, Charles Spencer Chaplin summoned Joseph Buster Keaton to the set of his latest movie, Limelight, to play a small but pivotal role.
Stoneface enters, carrying a traveling bag.
From the years 1920 to 1930, Keaton was one of the silent film era's most accomplished comedians, second only to Charlie Chaplin.
The tramp enters, shuffles past Stoneface with a hop.
In 1929, Keaton's contract was sold to the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios. Despite assurances to the contrary, Keaton soon lost artistic control of his films and eventually fell from the ranks of Hollywood stars. In the 1930s, Chaplin became the last of the silent comedians to make the switch to sound. His movies remained triumphant, but his reputation was marred by numerous scandals.
The tramp tries to walk past while hiding his face.
In the 1930s, Keaton was often dead drunk and dead broke. He recovered his senses, but was forced to take work wherever he could find it, making hundreds of low-grade comedies. In the 1940s, Chaplin was sued by a woman for paternity of a child, persecuted by the government for his political views, and reviled by the American public for his outspoken support of Russia during the Second World War. He made only 2 movies in a span of 10 years. In 1951, in the twilight of their careers, screen legend Charles Chaplin summoned screen legend Buster Keaton to the set of Chaplin's latest movie to play their first ever scene together.
The girl exits, dragging both comedians off stage by the ears. Scene 3. In the makeup room. Beverly has Buster on a block with his arms out. There's a costume laid out on a chair. Beverly searches the dressing room drawers, turning the room inside out.
You would think I would get some notice. You would think that since it's my job to have everything ready, they might tell me in advance that you were coming and that I should have the costume stuff ready. But I suppose a genius like Charles Chaplin can't be bothered with that sort of details.
How long do I have to hold this position?
Oh, you can put your arms down. I can't take your measurements until I find the tape measure, which should be right here.
I know my own measurements, you know. My waist's 28 inches and my inseam is 26.
All right, Beverly. Let's think about this. Suppose I take his word on it. Then something goes wrong. His pants start slipping in the middle of a scene. Who would get yelled at in front of the entire crew? Me. Is there any reason I wouldn't get yelled at? No. He yelled at Rolly when the camera fell, and he's been working for Chuck for 3 decades. No, I have to find the darn thing and measure his darn waist myself. It's supposed to be here. It's always here.
You know you can come down from there.
Oh, well, I'd rather stay if you don't mind. I rather enjoy the view from up high. It's not a view I get very much these days.
Well, you could also help me look for the tape measure, you know, if it's not too much of a bother.
Excuse me?
What?
Do you have any string?
There's some spools of it in the cabinet over there.
Buster goes to the cabinet, takes out a length of string. Beverly is getting even more irritated, searching for the missing measuring tape.
Miss?
What?
Hold this.
What do I...
Buster holds his finger to his lips, adjusts Beverly so that she holds the ruler straight across. He then takes the string and pulls out a length across his belt line, marking with his thumb where it loops. He then pulls the string taut next to the ruler and measures.
28 inches. Do you need my inseam next?
You know what? I'll take your word for it. Here, you can fill it out.
She hands the measurement sheet to Buster, who goes to write down his measurements. Chaplin rushes in.
Ah, there you are. How goes it?
Fine, Charlie. Just getting to know the help.
Yes, dear Beverly, the most capable assistant a director can ask for.
I can see that already.
I'm done with the measurements. I can start adjusting the costumes.
Splendid.
I need to remind you that we have a preliminary press conference this weekend.
Just wonderful. I'll bring the suit of armor and you bring the snake bit kit.
That bad, huh?
It's not worth talking about. Go on.
Eugene wants you to look at the latest stage model for the ballet scene.
Right. After today's filming, then.
Melissa and Andre are scheduled to arrive next Monday. Andre seemed very keen to begin work on the choreography.
Yes, he would be. Have you seen the spare copy of the script? Buster needs to start learning his lines.
It's underneath your notes on lighting by the costume sketches.
Splendid. Oh, Beverly,
Yes, Mr. Chaplin?
can you see that this measuring tape I borrowed is put back?
Tosses the missing measuring tape to Beverly, who catches it. She stares at Buster, who smiles as he finishes the measurement form.
Good to see that Charlie hasn't lost his comedic timing after all these years.
Beverly puts away the measuring tape.
This is one of those days Mother warned me about.
The only change I would have made is I would have had you fumble the measuring tape. Then I would have caught it in midair. That would have been even better.
You know, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, mister.
Call me Buster.
Okay, Buster. You know that fellas like the great Charles Chaplin, they don't realize that it's the regular schmoes like you and me. We're the ones who do the grunt work that make him look like a star.
Beverly goes to work on the costume, ignoring Buster.
Right, just us regular folk.
Chaplin enters holding a very large script.
I found your copy of the script, so where was I?
Ready to make your grand re-entrance.
Yes. Well, I was about to explain the movie.
Chaplin moves to the center of the room, acting out his words in pantomime as much as he can.
In a nutshell, it's boy meets girl, loses girl, boy meets girl again, tale. By the time your character appears, my character, Calvero, is downtrodden and desperate, but set to star in one last attempt to recapture the former glory and fame he enjoyed in the waning days of vaudeville before the movies came and destroyed it. You are present in the climax, the pivotal point of the entire movie. Calvero tries to find one show, one hit that will redeem his career with your character's help, of course, and will pull him back from the brink of oblivion. And you say,
I never thought it'd turn out like this. Funny.
I'm glad you think so.
If anybody else says it's like old times, I'll jump out the window. But it's nothing like old times, is it? And after this scene?
After this scene, we go directly into the final triumphant return to the glory of Calvero. I get back into my shabby stage costume and win back the adoration of the public with the help of my comic sidekick, of course.
Of course. What's her shtick?
I am a downtrodden tramp violinist, and you will accompany me on the piano.
A piano? Yes, I know. I can play it too hard and then break a wire. Then I'll be forced to climb inside the piano.
Buster.
My hands will get stuck inside the wires.
Buster, I have the routine planned out. I will do a bit of business with a disappearing leg and a broken violin string. You will fumble with your sheet music.
I fumble my sheet music?
Yes. There are a few variations we can play off of, but that will be the basic tenor of the scene.
All right, you're the boss. So then what?
Well, eventually we do have to play. When we play, it'll be a mad parody of musical virtuosity, and it's received to great acclaim from the audience. And during the end of this final triumph, Calvero tumbles into the orchestra pit, ending up wedged into a timpani drum. A doctor is found on stage. My protege, the beautiful ballerina named Terry, dances to acclaim while Calvero learns that he has suffered a fatal attack and will not last the evening. His last wish is to be in the wings, to watch his true love dance as he expires. The end.
Costume is ready to try on.
Let's get you dressed.
Herds Buster in behind a dressing screen.
Tell me, Charlie, is the whole movie like this?
Like what?
I don't know, some sort of sappy a Valentine to the old days?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it a Valentine, Buster. I just wanted to tell the story of all those vaudevillians put out with the coming of movies. Technology causing the obsolescence of a human, a whole class of noble performers gone. I think it's a theme any auto worker in Michigan or farmer from Duluth can get behind.
All well and good, Charlie, but no one's going to be able to watch all this Lost Glory stuff and not think of you.
That will be their problem, I'm afraid.
Well, what do you think?
Buster is dressed in costume. It's baggy and shabby looking.
Perfect. You look absolutely decrepit and wretched. And when makeup is done, you'll look 20 years older. Maybe we could make it more shabby.
I have my image to think of, you know. Don't make me look too shabby.
Beverly, take Buster's jacket and rough it up a little.
Beverly takes Buster's jacket. Oona Chaplin, Chaplin's wife, walks in, holding a picnic basket.
Hello, are you in?
Darling.
He goes to Oona and kisses her affectionately.
How is Lovey today?
Just wonderful as usual. Wonderful. And how's your day?
Simply darling, darling. I brought you sandwiches and a salad and fresh squeezed lemonade.
Here I thought your days of canoodling with leading ladies was over, you old devil.
Excuse me?
Buster.
I knew that talk about Chaplin, the changed man, was just talk.
Buster, this is my wife, Oona.
Didn't I see you earlier?
No, that must have been Claire. She happens to resemble me.
I see. Well, that's why I was a comedian, you see, for sometimes I make a fool of myself.
It's no matter, Buster, really.
He's been quite keen to meet you, in fact.
Is that a fact now?
Well, I've watched quite a few films from that time. After marrying Charles, how could I not?
I'm mighty flattered that a young pup like yourself remembers an old coot like me.
Remember you? I would say that you'd be extremely difficult to forget.
If you don't mind, I need a word alone with my wife.
I have the jacket ready to try on.
Chaplin and Oona talk on one side of the stage. Beverly and Buster talk on the other. Their conversations overlap.
So I brought chicken salad and a turkey club.
Thank you, Oona, but
I found this wonderful deli near the house.
it doesn't matter right now.
Didn't you want me to bring you lunch?
You know that I do. But did you visit the bank today? Well?
So I didn't know you were in movies before. I thought you were in vaudeville.
I was in a couple of films in my time.
Any I ever heard of?
Well, there was The General, or maybe you've heard of The Navigator.
No.
How about Our Hospitality? The Battling Butler, The Cameraman?
When were all these? I've never heard of any of them.
The 20s.
How about more recent, like the 30s?
Well, there was The Passionate Plumber.
Oh, I saw that one with Jimmy Durant, right?
Yes, with Jimmy Durant. Yeah.
What a kick. I remember you now. Of course you were in What? No Beer and Speak Easily with Durant. You were his sidekick. The little fella I never would have guessed.
Buster glowers as Beverly adjusts the jacket.
No, I didn't go to the bank.
Oona.
I meant to. I did, but it was such a wonderful day. And the children wanted to go to the park and play. And then it was noon.
You need to do this. I know you don't like it, but it's necessary.
But why is it necessary? Do you really
You
think?
need to trust me on this one.
But surely they can't do that to us.
We cannot let ourselves be at their mercy. Please, go to the bank for me.
I know, I just...
We've been over this so many times.
I know, Charles. I just don't want this to be true. You weren't born here, but this is my country. I just don't want to think that someone can just take away your life because they don't like what you think or what you say.
I know.
So what was it like being Jimmy's sidekick? That must have really been something.
Let me show you something. Beverly, was it?
Yeah.
Could you hand me my bag over there?
She fetches the bag, hands it to Buster. He looks inside and hands her a photo.
Take a look at that.
Oh, what a beautiful house. It's like a mansion.
It had 43 rooms, if I recall correctly. Imported marble from Italy, custom built, every piece of it. 12 acres. It took 2.5 years to finish.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Is this one of those postcards of the Hollywood mansions that they sell at the drugstores? The dwellings of the superstars?
No, that used to be my house.
Beverly is absolutely stunned and embarrassed. Buster goes and takes the photo from her hands, puts it in his bag again. They sit in silence, staring ahead.
Why can't they just leave us alone?
Because I've said too many things. Because the country is set to march itself off a cliff and it will trample anyone who says otherwise.
I don't want it to be like this.
Neither do I.
Do you have any questions? Why don't you get me a coffee, Beverly?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm terribly sorry,
Just
sir.
get the coffee.
Beverly, what's the matter?
I have to get a coffee.
Splendid. Make mine a tea. What on earth is the matter with that girl?
I cannot imagine.
I should go too.
Don't be mad at me, darling.
I'm not mad at you. I could never be mad at you.
What was
It was nothing.
women?
Then maybe now we have some time to discuss the scene.
Chaplin closes the door, leaving them in private.
That Beverly. That's one pretty little number, Charlie. Is she just your assistant?
I'm a married man now, Buster, as are you.
You were married before, too. I was married before. It's not exactly an insurmountable obstacle.
Beverly is my assistant. Oona is my wife. And I'm very keen to keep it that way.
Charlie Chaplin gone straight? I thought I'd never see the day.
Gosh. I suppose you'd jeopardize your marriage to Eleanor for some starstruck would-be starlet?
So you're really a one-woman man these days, huh?
I swear it to be true.
Just Una?
Just Oona.
I never thought.
Neither did I, until I came across the most enchanting and charming creature I've ever encountered. I knew the moment I laid eyes on her that I had met the great love of my life.
It's all nice to say, Charlie, but tell me the truth. If you were to wake tomorrow morning and find in the mirror the reflection of you at 28.
The tramp enters, waves hello at Chaplin. The girl comes by and winks at the tramp. The tramp follows her out.
World famous, handsome, king of the universe. Women lining up to throw themselves at you. If that happened, would it still be just Una?
Buster, you old devil. Is this why you came, to stir up trouble in my home?
Nah, you never needed help from me in that regard.
And what of you? You're the happily married man these days, I hear. And what would you do if you could turn back the clock?
What would I do? I would make my own movies, not cameo in someone else's.
All right then. Why did you decide to come, Buster? It doesn't seem to me like you need this little role. You look in such fine shape. To tell the truth, I was not sure you'd be able to do this, not knowing what you've been doing for the last 15 years.
I'm surprised. I thought you would know.
How would I know?
You ever look on television, Charlie?
Lights up on a television. The tramp wanders in, contemplates this new thing with a head scratch, prods it with his cane.
Television? Good heavens, no, I hate it. I will not permit it in my house. The idea of actors letting themselves be shown on that lousy, stinking little screen.
The tramp beats the television with his cane.
Don't you even have it in the kids' room, Charlie?
There, last of all. Oona has enough trouble as it is with the lively little bouncers. They are darlings, but mischievous. There would be no controlling them at all if we let them see all that tripe on the television. Should be done away with. It's ruining the whole country.
Pause. The tramp carries the TV off. Chaplin recovers from his tirade.
But I get carried away. You know me. Tell me, how do you manage to stay in such good shape? What
My
makes
work in television.
you cry?
Chaplin's face is momentarily numb with shock. He then clears his throat and snaps to a different subject. Buster is laughing.
Well, now about the sequence upcoming.
Ah, come off it, Charlie. I got you that time, didn't I?
I suppose you did, Buster.
Television is what has kept me and Eleanor well fed these past few years. You can do commercials, guest appearances, 1, 2, 3 days of work tops, and that buys you 2 weeks worth of groceries.
Do you not even have your own shows?
I'm sure. I have a local show in Los Angeles. It's been on for 3 seasons now, inching toward #1 in the area. If we can get a sponsor, we'll try to make it national.
You. On television. Does it not make you grieve?
What do I have to grieve about?
The career you once had. Grand. Majestic. Now shrunk down into a trifling 9-inch screen?
As far as I'm concerned, I have always been a fabulously lucky man. I make my living making people laugh. How do you beat that? The only trouble is I'm keeping up the pace. Imagine coming up with something new every week.
Rather than every decade? I remember how it was in the beginning.
The following coincides with Chaplin and Buster's next exchange. Stoneface enters with an old-style camera, the girl at his side. They play a cameraman and a director. They discuss where to set up the camera. He starts filming Chaplin and Buster. The tramp saunters in, notices the camera, scratches his head, and he nonchalantly strolls into the frame, blocking the camera's recording. Stoneface shouts to the girl, telling her to shoo the tramp away. She does. The tramp apologizing profusely. After a bit, the tramp strolls into the frame again, and the cycle is repeated until they get fed up enough to chase the tramp off stage.
I remember the rush of invention. I remember that freedom there was that came with the fact that you could set a camera down anywhere and make a movie. With silent movies, you didn't have to worry about the noise. You could film scenes on busy streets or rushing rivers, and it didn't matter.
I remember the first time I saw a camera. You took it to my hotel room. I took it to my hotel room and took it apart piece by piece, just to see if I could figure out what was happening in there.
I remember the noises the old cameras made before they all had to be soundproofed.
Clack, 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 clack.
It was like music.
I stayed up all night to see what was in there.
I just wanted to be the man on the screen.
Lights down on everyone but Stoneface working the camera. In the rehearsal room, Buster is seated at the grand piano while Chaplin watches. Buster has a stack of sheet music in front of him. They are in costume. Chaplin holds a violin and a bow.
So you're going to cut me, and I'm going to fumble the sheet music.
Yes, that's all while I'm going to have problems with my leg.
I still don't understand what's supposed to be happening with you. Like, that wasn't clear in the script.
Oh, well, it's just a bit of pantomime, really. See, I wear these baggy, short pants, so if I put my leg up like this, it looks like my leg has mysteriously shortened to half its size. I can hobble around on it. Yep. And then pull the leg back to its right length.
Oh. All right.
What? You don't like it?
Sure, it's a good bit of mine, like you said.
But it's not what you do.
Well, I suppose I don't get the gag.
The gag?
Yeah, it's a great looking bit, but why is it funny?
Well, it just looks right. Can't we think about your part for now?
Right. Well, I come in with too much sheet music, right?
Right, yes. And you have the papers flailing about wildly.
I wasn't thinking wildly.
No.
Just every time I get the stack right, I would have maybe 1 or 2 of the sheets fall off, and in just a steady trickle. You see, it's just that I'm trying to patiently impose order to this unruly mess. That's how I think it should go.
All right. I can live with that.
Then I was thinking that I would get so fed up, I would look into my bench here and pull out a hammer and some nails. Do we have one here?
He scans the room and finds a hammer. He picks it up to illustrate his point.
Yeah. Then I'll go and nail all the pieces of sheet and all the sheets into place, and it'll look like a mess, but that's the gag. Then I can tear off sheets sheets of music like a calendar's pages while we play. Oh, and then we can do a bit where we have to go inside the piano with a pair of pliers and mess around with the wires. What do you think of that?
No, I think the paper shuffling will be fine.
You can always edit it.
No, it's just there won't be time for it.
You know, like the gag.
Fine gag, it's just not right for the scene.
But no, you're right. I'll just stick to the paper shuffling.
A knock at the door.
Yes?
Beverly comes in. She sneaks over to Chaplin and hurriedly whispers in his ear. Chaplin looks pained and immediately gets up and exits the room, without so much as a word to Buster. Beverly and Buster wait in uncomfortable silence.
He'll be right back. It's just a problem on the set. He had to talk to Rolly, the cameraman. It happens when you're the boss on set. You understand.
I used to.
Here's your coffee.
Thank you.
Do you want anything? Sugar, cream?
No, I'm fine.
Can I ask you something, Mr. Keaton?
Call me Buster.
Buster. Well, I have to say I'm pretty embarrassed.
What's that?
Well, I just didn't know about you, you know. I thought you were just one of Mr. Chaplin's old friends, and so we just gave you a part. I didn't know. I'm very sorry.
Don't worry about it.
But I feel so terrible.
Think about how I feel. That was a joke. Do you see why I'm a forgotten comedian? There you go.
You're funny, Mr. Keaton.
People used to think so.
I'm serious.
So am I. I'm always serious.
Even when you're making comedy?
Especially when I'm making comedy. You can never be too serious when you're making a comedy.
I don't understand.
What do you suppose the difference is? The only difference between comedy and tragedy.
What's that?
In a comedy, you turn off the camera early.
You're gonna have to explain that one.
All right. Well, let's see. Let's take a comedy.
Which comedy?
Anyone. Every comedy. What's the plot?
I don't know.
What are most comedies about?
Well, there are romantic comedies.
Exactly. Boy meets girl. Boy loses girl. Boy gets girl. They kiss, screen to black, the end. You follow me?
So far.
But what happens when you keep the camera rolling on the boy and the girl? Any guesses?
You're the teacher.
What happens to anyone? Maybe the boy's not as successful as he once was. The girl's having an affair with a neighbor. The boy starts drinking more than he should. The girl spends money that they just don't have. They just start getting on each other's nerves.
But not everyone's like that. Some couples get along.
True, but even if they get along over the years, one of them is going to die, and the other one has to pick up the pieces. Something bad always happens.
That's such a dark and twisted view, and you're a comedian.
But am I wrong? We go up and down all the time. If you fade to black on a high note, you've got yourself a comedy. But you keep the camera rolling long enough, it turns to dust. And as comedians, it's our job to make people forget this.
Then what about this movie? Mr. Chaplin dies in the end.
I'm not sure about this one. Maybe we should ask Charlie.
You're not actually listening to his blather, are you?
Mr. Chaplin.
Is that a note of doubt I hear?
It's only a statement of dissent. Your comedy is not the same as mine.
What's the difference?
It's not a new thing between Buster and myself, but we have a slightly different perspective. A minor disagreement. You see, Buster believes that the world tends to move inevitably toward catastrophe. I do not. I believe that people who try to make the world a better place sometimes succeed, and thus they are obliged to try. One might turn a tragedy into something better if one works at it.
Although in your profession, that might not be wise. Some people might not want to be improved by their entertainments.
I can't help those people. Why should I aim for the lowest common denominator?
Well, you know what I always said. You gotta make everyone in the audience laugh, even the dumb ones.
Silently, Chaplin and Buster start to rehearse their scene. In the foreground, the tramp enters, eating a banana. He politely and elaborately wipes his mouth before casually tossing the banana peel in the middle of the stage. He moves to one side of the stage. Stoneface comes in, walking across the stage, oblivious to the banana peel. There are two possible gags. He can slip on that banana peel and fall on his rump, or he can avoid the peel at the last second, swerving around it. He would then nod to the audience as if to say, "I bet you thought I was going to slip." The tramp would then toss a second banana peel in his path, and then he would slip. In either case, the tramp would pull out a broom and sweep the banana peels off the stage with a hop on his step. The tramp and Stoneface exit, and the focus shifts back to the Chaplin and Buster. Chaplin holds a violin, and Buster is seated at the piano. But they make no sound. Chaplin is barking out instructions. Beverly is holding a script and taking notes.
And faster, 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 da dum da 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 dum da da dum dum dum, faster, faster, faster. Keaton, can I get rid of the bench? Kick it away. Yes.
I get rid of the bench. Kick it away.
Faster, cut to you, cut to me, da da dum dum. It's so frantic. I tumble off the stage into the big drum.
He sits on the rolling chair. Buster stops and watches.
But then the musicians go and lift me up, still in the drum. I keep playing. Da dum da dum da dum 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 dum. You keep playing, keep playing, keep playing.
Buster plays.
And I'm carried off stage just in time for my death scene with Claire.
You have another line on stage.
Yes? What was it again?
They carry you back on the stage, still in the drum, and you say, "I would like to take the opportunity to bow, but I'm afraid I'm stuck."
And the great artist gets his last chance at glory and the beautiful girl.
Right. If he wants her.
You know what I don't get about all these comedies?
I'm not sure we're...
No, go on. Tell us.
While Beverly talks, Oona comes by with a thermos of tea and a snack for Chaplin. Beverly doesn't notice her while she rants. Oona and Chaplin silently kiss, chat, etc. Keaton notices and is bemused.
Well, in all these movies, you have the fella who's down on his luck, and then he runs into this poor, needy, gorgeous girl who's just the one to set him straight and just so happens to be waiting around for no reason. In almost every movie you see, in this very movie we're making right now, in fact, the hero just happens to wander right into the path of someone who is just down on her luck, and she's beautiful, who's right there when he needs her.
Would you buy tickets to see ugly girls do that?
That is not what I mean. Do all these fellas who make movies really think that the universe is just some kind of machine who manufactures these beautiful and needy girls, handing them out to heroic men at opportune moments of their story? I mean, what kind of guy thinks the world works this way?
Oona exits waving to Buster. Buster waves back. Beverly is oblivious to this all.
Am I right or am I right?
Your argument is irrefutable.
Are we arguing again?
No, we're just discussing movies and why there's always a girl in them.
Well, of course you need a girl. Every film needs a girl.
In fact, in most films, all you need is a girl.
Why? I don't get it.
From opposite sides of the stage, the girl and Stoneface enter, holding telephones. The girl speaks, she smiles and chats. Stoneface, excitingly, grabs his coat and mimes running at top speed. Meanwhile, the girl is still chatting, not knowing that Stoneface is no longer on the other end of the line. As the girl notices that Stoneface is no longer on the phone, he's there beside her, politely tipping his cap. They exit.
You see, Beverly, if there wasn't a girl in the movie, there wouldn't be a chase. Think about it. You go to movies to see crazy people running around doing crazy things. No one would stand in front of a speeding locomotive if there wasn't a girl tied to the track he had to save.
If there wasn't a girl around to drive men crazy, the men would just sit around and talk contentedly.
And if people wanted to see that, they would just go out and see plays.
I told Max Sennett back at the beginning that all I needed to make movies for him was a girl, a park, me, and a policeman.
And the camera, of course.
Of course. But that was before we had luxuries like sound and screenwriters, not to mention script girls.
You old timers always on about the old days. I think movies are just as good as ever. Sometimes you don't even need a girl. I just saw a great one recently about this fella and a rabbit, except that this rabbit was invisible. See? Well, you can't see him, but that's...
Beverly.
Yeah.
A moment alone, please. Thank you.
That's your audience, Charlie.
God help us all.
Alone at last, eh?
Yes. Yes, I must apologize, Buster. I had thought we'd have been able to talk a bit more before now.
There's nothing to apologize for. It's what the world has been waiting for, isn't it? Chaplin and Keaton on the same stage for the first time. Have you ever...
Now, Buster, I have to go over this once before we begin the filming.
Yes?
You know I have respect for you. You must know that.
Okay, what's this all about?
It's just that when we get in front of the crew, when we start shooting, I have to know that you realize your place in this scheme. I am the director, I am the writer, I am the star. I know that you will have a great number of good ideas, but how the scene can be done, and I welcome that, but...
Charlie, relax. You're the boss, I'm the employee. I know that.
And you can play the scene as written?
Absolutely.
I hope that...
Charlie, I knew the deal going in. I'm fine with this. Really. Just tell me what it is you want and I'll do it. We're just two old pros here to do a job.
Thank you, my friend.
Did you ever think we could have worked together before? I mean, before this.
I have thought of it.
Right. I mean, if we went back to the old way. Remember the beginning? We could make a two-reeler in 2 days. We could still do that.
I suppose that's possible.
It would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yes, well, you know me. It took me 5 years to make this movie. It took me 7 to make my last one. I can't even start to think about the next one until I finish this one.
I see.
It's something to think about. You should, when we finish shooting and get to editing, stop by my house. We'll screen the rough cut. We'll talk.
That sounds fine.
They're ready for you on set, Mr. Chaplin.
Thank you, Beverly.
Let's go to work.
Have you got your lines?
I never thought it would turn out like this.
Good, good.
If anybody else says it's like old times, I'll jump out the window.
I think we're ready for that spotlight.
Chaplin exits. Buster follows. After a moment, Buster scampers back into the scene, picks up the hammer, considers it for a bit, conceals it in his coat pocket. He also picks up a pair of pliers and puts them in his coat and calmly walks off stage. The Tramp and Stoneface enter. One mimes being a cameraman. The other has the clapboard that starts filming. They film to the side where Buster and Chaplin have exited. And action. They film. Silent film style music plays. End of Act 1. Alrighty. So that was Act 1 of Chaplin and Keaton on the set of Limelight. Once again, for anyone who's just started watching, this is Living Room Theater. I'm your host, Sam Sommer. What we're reading right now is Chaplin and Keaton on the set of Limelight. Our cast is, the play is by Greg Lamb, and the cast is playing Charlie Chaplin is Ryan Pangracs, hello. Playing Buster Keaton is Nicky Maddalina. Playing the role of Beverly is Paige Cummings. And playing the role of the girl, Oona and Claire, is Caroline Turner. Alrighty. So, once again, this is a free production, a free reading, and a free show to watch. but we do accept donations for our senior showcase. Today is also the last day where a portion of our donations are going to the Black Arts Network. So please consider donating to help a good foundation. They're working on really cool projects that is going to be really fun in the fall. So yeah, we're going to start with Act 2. Alrighty. Act 2. Scene 1. The speech. A podium is centered on the stage. The girl steps up to the microphone.
In 1940, Charlie Chaplin made his first film with sound and dialogue. Charlie Chaplin made a speech.
The tramp is shoved in front of a large bank of microphones. He's dressed in a parody of a Nazi uniform. Instead of a swastika, there are 2 black crosses in the armband. He's clearly expected to speak. He acts nervous, but makes his way to the bank of microphones with the glare of a spotlight on him. He speaks with a monotonous voice and stares ahead with intensity.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone, if possible. Jew, Gentile, black men, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there is room for everyone. And the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone.
Tramp continues speaking throughout this section, but is not heard except in spots. Chaplin enters fresh from the soundstage in his Limelight costume. He has a pot belly, striped socks, and thick glasses. He slams the door on the way in. Chaplin is agitated. He throws his wig, kicks at a chair, and knocks over a stack of paper. He takes a deep breath and gathers himself. Buster enters, completely at ease.
Well, I thought that went rather well. How about you?
Chaplin paces around the room.
Crew was laughing their heads off. I think they liked it.
Chaplin considers saying something to Buster, but decides not to. Buster takes the pliers out of his coat pocket.
And the bit with the pliers, I told you that would work.
Buster,
Nah, don't thank me.
it wasn't what I called for. I asked you not to do it.
But it was funny.
I don't want that sort of humor in here.
What did you want?
What type of movie did you think I was making here? Some Max Sennett pie-in-the-face travesty?
I don't know. It's something that might entertain people. That kind of movie. What other kinds are there?
There are many other kinds of movies. Maybe if you were still making your own movies, you would realize that. I need to change.
Chaplin starts to change out of his comical costume into a plain dark suit. Buster sulks at Chaplin's insult. The tramp is once again heard.
Our knowledge has made us cynical. Our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost.
Tramp continues the scene in silence.
I'm sorry for losing control like that.
No. You're right. I deserve that. This is your movie. I should remember that.
There's just so much at stake for me in this movie. There are hordes of people waiting to dissect it with their pens and their newsprints.
Since when have you worried about what other people think of you? The movie will be fine. The critics will grouse, but that's what they've been bred to do.
It's not just this movie I worry about, Buster. It's the world.
The tramp is once again heard.
Hannah, can you hear me? Wherever you are, look up. Look up, Hannah. The clouds are lifting, the sun is breaking through. We are coming out of the darkness into the light. We are coming into a new world, a kindlier world where men will rise above their greed, their hate, and their brutality. Look up, Hannah. The soul of man has been given wings, and he is beginning to fly. He is flying into the rainbow, into the light of hope. Look up, Hannah. Look up.
Lights down on the tramp.
10 years ago, When I made the great dictator, I thought I would show everyone how great a fool Hitler was, how laughable and dismissible he was, and so I did. But I was more the fool, wasn't I? I tried to say that hope was possible, but while I was making slapstick fun of the Nazis and spreading my nice little message of hope, they were stuffing families of Jews into ovens in Poland.
How could you know, Charlie? What use is it to...
But what presumption! If I had known what was to be, I could have not made that movie. I was a presumptuous fool. I have only 2 or 3 hours in which to sway my audience. Hitler and his ilk had a whole decade. I could not win.
It was a good movie, though. It really was. When you had the Hitler character playing with the giant globe like a balloon, it was funny.
But it couldn't stand against the event of the times. It wasn't strong enough to counter an entire country ready to put the blame of the world onto a group of harmless souls. Ready, willing, wanting to believe the worst.
Well, it's not like World War II was your fault. It's hard to believe sometimes, the Germans.
No, not just the Germans. It's easy to lay this at their doorstep, but at the height of it all, I saw those nicely dressed young people, men in the streets of New York City, parroting the hate of the Nazis, shaming the Jews, and no one willing to stand up for them. I stood up whenever I could, but half the world already believes I'm Jewish anyway.
You know what? I never understood why you never simply denied it. It'd make your life so much easier. Just say you're not Jewish.
That would play right into their hands. The anti-Semites would love to see public figures scrambling away feverishly from suspected Jewishness. It would prove their point to make the religion seem like an epithet.
It would save you a lot of grief.
My convenience matters little when weighed against the welfare of the world. If the good people don't stiffen in the face of abomination, then the bad will have free rein to spread their messages of hatred.
This isn't Germany, Charlie. It couldn't happen here.
Tramp, Stoneface, and the girl march silently across the stage in military fashion.
How can you say that? Did you know that the head of the Screen Actors Guild, what's his name, the one with the chimp?
Reagan?
Yes, Ronald Reagan. He's drawing up a national loyalty pledge for all working screen actors, a national loyalty pledge in order to act in a movie. This Reagan fellow is a lunatic. How on earth does a man like that get elected?
There are a few nutcases, sure. There are everywhere, but...
But the cells of Nazism, which are perhaps dormant at the moment, can be activated very quickly in every country. I know from first-hand experience that the slightest perceived threat to one's standing will set the press, the politicians, the unthinking mob at your throat with scandal and easy headlines. The last 10 years of my life, I have been persecuted as badly as poor Roscoe Arbuckle was.
Roscoe Arbuckle. You know, that still makes me mad 20 years later. Beloved comedy star kills starlet. More easy headlines. They hanged him in the newspaper without a shred of evidence in the courtroom. Never mind that he got acquitted twice. He could never work again. I gave him a directing job, but he had to use an alias. Those damned animals killed Roscoe.
I know how he felt. They're trying to do it to me.
What do you mean by that?
Don't you read the papers? I'm public enemy number 1. I'm a child molester, a fellow traveler of the communists. I'm the target of every red-hating Neanderthal with a press pass that the courts made me pay support to a child that blood tests have conclusively proven, cannot be my child. And why? Because there's a reactionary agenda working against my every move. I have a publicity conference in a few hours. I'm toying with the idea of wearing a suit of armor to that press to make a point.
That's good. That's the idea. Make a joke of it. In fact, you could do a whole gag where you dress up as a reporter without them knowing it.
No, I won't be doing anything like that. It was an idle thought, but this is too serious to laugh away. I have to face them and beat them at their own game.
It always had to be difficult with you, doesn't it? You can make a lot of this go away if you want to. Just take some friendly reporter and do the "I'm very sorry" story. You don't have to mean anything you say in it, but the public eats up redemption stories.
I can't do that, Buster.
But if you can't lie to reporters, who can you lie to?
I can't go to the press and apologize for my views. I have nothing to be ashamed of. And the world has to understand that.
What's the difference?
I have made stands which have turned out to be controversial and unpopular with certain elements of society, but those views are not mistakes. That stupid contract you signed with MGM was a mistake. That's the difference.
Oh, don't remind me.
What? That you signed your life over and destroyed your career? That I told you beforehand that it was a bad idea?
Yes, that is exactly what I don't want to be reminded of.
Why did you do that, Buster? Why didn't you fight to control your own career?
It was my brother-in-law. What could I do? He had been in charge of my career from my first movie. That when he sold my contract, he said to me, "Trust me, Buster, this is for the best." So I trusted him. How was I to know that this would turn out to be the greatest lie since the stock market can't be wrong? The next thing I know, they're making me second banana to Jimmy Durant.
You could have listened to good advice. I told you it was foolish.
And you could have offered me a contract.
I beg your pardon.
You could have called me before this movie. My MGM contract expired in 1936. That's 15 years ago. You could have called me and said, "Buster, United Artists could use a few good old-fashioned slapstick comedies. What do you say? What do you say to putting on your director's cap?" I would have pulled out my 3 performances. I would have pulled out of my 3 performances a day tour and the Catskills to do that.
You said yourself you were falling down drunk.
Not for the last decade.
You hardly had the best track record of late.
I haven't had full control of a film for over 20 years, Charlie. Any creativity in those films came in spite of the directors. I did what I could, and I still have my fastball. Look, I'm not here to blame you for my life. My mistakes are my own. But if you believed so strongly in me, you could have thrown me a rope like I threw Roscoe Arbuckle a rope after that scandal ruined his career.
There were extenuating circumstances. I had no idea you were so bitter.
I'm not bitter about anything. I'm just making the point that despite what you think, you're not necessarily better than anyone else.
I never said I was. Damn you, Buster. No one else can needle me like you do.
Well, we speak the same language.
What's that?
Laughter. Can you even remember how it began for you, Charlie? Before the drudgery, before the cutthroat press and nonsense? This is all such a battle now, but can you remember how it used to be?
It all seems so simple. The first time I ever took the stage, I was 5 years old. My mother was supposed to perform at the music hall, but she was ill. Her voice just left. So I leapt onto the stage and sang this song that my mother sang to me. I didn't know any better. Jack Jones, well and known to everybody. Round about the market, don't you see? I've no fault to find with Jack at all. Not when his used to be.
I know this one.
Then join in. But since he's had the bully and left him, he's altered
for the worst.
For to see the way he treats all his pals fills me with
Nothing but disgust.
Each Sunday morning till he reads the graph. Once he was contented with the star. Jack Jones has come into a little bit of cash. Well, we don't know where we are.
Oona Chaplin enters with a baby in a stroller.
Charles, are you in? I thought I heard playing.
Is it time for the press already?
I'm early. I just didn't want to stay away for too long. You know that every moment away from you is excruciating.
I would spend a moment with you if I could. Did you...
Go to the bank? Yes, I finally did. You were right. It was really nothing to get worked up about.
Wonderful. Good work. I'm very relieved.
Victoria has been missing you terribly as well.
Oh, my darling baby. All my darling babies.
Are you feeling all right? I know how you get when you have to talk to reporters.
Nothing for you to worry about, dear.
That's right. We were just going over battle strategies. I was suggesting perhaps a diversionary tactic.
A diversionary tactic?
Yes, he could go up to the podium and, oh my god, what is that?
Buster points. Oona and Chaplin look away. Buster crouches behind a dressmaker's dummy.
And then he could hide behind a potted plant. It'd be a good bit.
My husband is not afraid of the press.
No, of course he isn't. Anyone with sense would be.
Mr. Keaton.
Oona, perhaps you should...
No, I won't. Mr. Keaton, perhaps it's not the nicest or the wisest thing to do to be critical of your current employer, especially in the presence of his young, impressionable wife. Perhaps.
Listen, I know you mean well, but I'm old enough to be your father.
My father is Eugene O'Neill, and he's far more terrible than you could ever be. I am not awed by great men, and I will not hear my husband criticized by anyone.
All right, perhaps you're right. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm sorry. Lovely kid you have there.
Yes. She's made us so happy. Have you any children?
2. They're all grown now.
Oh, but I thought you were married again.
We're not the parenting kind, me and Eleanor.
Oh, but you should. You should. There's nothing in the world that can compare to raising a child. The rewards you get from it are like nothing else in this world. We're going to have lots and lots of children, aren't we? We already have 4.
Darling, I'll meet you outside. There's just one thing I have to do with Buster before we can go.
Of course, darling.
Lovely girl you got there.
Yes, she is.
You know, it's remarkable how much she resembles that actress.
Yes. Claire and Oona have become the best of friends. A rare moment of harmony, I must say.
She's not entirely right, though.
How do you mean?
There is something else that's like raising a kid. Something that rewards you just the same.
Making a movie?
How did you know? So, do you think I need to perhaps be more diplomatic in my way of speaking?
I think that we are 2 old friends, and that we're just passing the time, and I can take anything you might be able to dish out. Buster, I want to apologize for anything I've said today.
Pay no mind. We were just catching up on things.
No hard feelings?
None. None. None at all.
Chaplin takes a seat, a king in his throne.
So there's something you've been wanting to talk to me about.
There is.
Then go right ahead. Hearing you talk is a good deal more pleasant than facing the press.
Right. Well, Charlie, I've been thinking, that scene we just shot in there, that was really good.
You don't say?
Well, don't you?
It went well overall.
It was funny.
We shall see. It did feel good, though.
Exactly. You've been so wrapped up in trying to make great movies. You've forgotten how to let loose and have fun out there like we did today. I think we should work together again. After this, I mean.
What are you suggesting? A silent film? Now? The tramp is dead and buried, Buster. I threw the dirt myself.
Not necessarily a silent comedy, but definitely a comedy. Just a big barrel of laughs. But, silent movies have been gone for so long, it just might come back in style.
I can't even think about the next movie right now.
Oh, come on now, Charlie. You know and I know that after you finish this movie, that you'll agonize and languish for 3 years before you get an inkling of an idea that will stick. What if you just use that time and have fun with an idea for once and just do it? We could make a 1-hour silent in a month and a half.
Getting back to basics would be a kick.
And we could steal every sight gag from the entire history of silent movies. Lord knows that there hasn't been a properly executed sight gag or chase scene in over 20 years now. Just think how much fun there is in these old brains of ours.
But I couldn't be the tramp anymore. It's just not the same once he started to talk.
So you'll be Just some old fart in a nursing home. In a wheelchair. I'm sure we could think of some good gags for that. We'll make a brand new you.
We?
Speaking hypothetically.
I'd only work in a wheelchair if I got to kick you around in a wheelchair.
Fair enough.
So what would the plot be?
There would have to be a girl, of course.
The girl enters and waits.
Yes, but most people wouldn't find a relationship between an older man in a wheelchair and a young lady palatable.
So you have a son. Knockabout ne'er-do-well in a bowler cap with a cane.
The tramp enters. They do business that mirror the dialogue.
A substitute me.
He sees the girl, falls in love, and tries to win her, but finds in his way,
Your son, a common man, a bus driver.
That's good! There must be a lot of gags that you could do with a bus.
Sydney could play my son. He'd like that. Who could play your son?
Oh, I know some folks. Eager young lads like Red Skelton. I could teach him a few tricks.
Well, he better not be too bright if he's playing your kid.
Why's that?
No smart man would have anything to do with the stunts that you did.
Hell, if the kids don't want to do the stunts, then I'll be their stunt man.
Our sons vie for the affection of the young lady.
And they're also competing for a job too. They want to be train engineers. And they come to their old dear pops for advice.
Like Cyrano de Bergerac.
Without the nose, of course.
They collaborate and compete and scheme to try to impress the girl by getting the engineer's job. She wavers and it's alternately impressed and repulsed.
She nears a decision.
Oh, when the U.S. Army goes to some flibbergibbet war, they invade some harmless country somewhere, the fathers are locked away for speaking out against it, and both young men are dragged away from their dreams and their loves to fight for a heartless country, and the girl is heartbroken.
And where is this going?
That's it. That's the ending.
That's no ending.
What would you do?
Well, I was thinking that your kid would get the girl, mine would get the train, and they both be happy.
But this way they have heartbreak, injustice, sadness, social commentary.
No, Charlie, no. You were supposed to get away from all that.
Oh, to make an unimportant movie.
To make an entertaining movie. Entertainment, Charlie, do you remember the meaning of the word?
For God's sake.
You're the greatest comedian who ever lived. Can't you be happy with that?
No, because laughter is not enough these days. The world today needs more than that. Listen, I have to go out now and face the press drones. Can we talk about this later?
But Charlie.
Later, please.
Will you think about it?
I'll consider it. I will.
Sure enough then. But just think how good it could be, you and I, Chaplin and Keaton together again.
I will.
Buster exits. Chaplin gathers things to go, stops and looks at the piano again. He sits down and starts playing Jack Jones and sings.
Each Sunday morning he reads the Telegraph. Once he was contented with the Star. Since Jack Jones has come to a little bit of cash, well, we don't know where we are.
Fade to black. Scene 2, press conference. And here we have the director and star of Limelight, of course, the great Charles Chaplin, here to answer any question you might have. Charles Chaplin. Lights go up and the microphone banks. Very faint clapping. Chaplin moves to the microphone warily. He pastes on a smile and speaks. The other actors take places in the audience and play reporters.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? I am here to impart any facts that might interest you in connection with my picture and my future plans. Don't speak all at once.
Are you a communist?
No, next question, please. Pardon me, you'll have to read that again. I don't understand a word you're saying.
We of the Catholic War veterans.
I'm not here to answer Catholic War veterans. This is a meeting of the press, yes?
Why haven't you become a citizen?
I see no reason to change my nationality. I consider myself a citizen of the world.
A buzz in the audience. Chaplin takes a sip of water. But you can earn your money in America.
Well, if you're putting it on a mercenary basis, we'll have the record straight. My business is an international one. 70% of all my income is earned abroad, and the United States enjoys 100% taxation on it. So you see, I'm a very good paying guest.
Whether you earn your money here or not, who landed on those beaches in France resent your not being a citizen of this country.
You're not the only guy who landed on those beaches. My two sons were also there in Patton's Arby, right up in the front line. And they're not beefing or exploiting the fact as you're doing.
Chaplin is in a rhythm. Parry, thrust, parry, thrust. Do you know Hans Eisler?
Yes, he's a very dear friend of mine and a great musician.
Do you know that he's a communist?
I don't care what he is. My friendship is not based in politics.
You seem to like the communists, though.
Nobody is going to tell me whom to like or dislike. We haven't come to that yet.
Is it true that this movie again focuses on a predatory man who comes on to a much younger woman?
This movie is a particular love story with particular characters.
But with your history with women...
I trust the American public will be able to see the movie as it is on the screen and not through the filter of a baseless scandal.
Have you any comment on the deportation rumors?
No, who is to be deported?
Rumor has it that Hoover may try and deport you if he can figure out how.
It is not something I concern myself with. My concern is with the movie.
But if he were to try to do something...
I'm fairly certain that if an overzealous bureaucrat tries to bar me from this country, he'd find it's against the stated laws and traditions of this country.
You're pretty quick to expound on the traditions of this country.
I was under the impression that this country enacted laws protecting freedom of speech.
A lone, soft voice from the back speaks. Mr. Chaplin, how does it feel to be an artist who has enriched the world with so much happiness and understanding of the little people, and to be derided on, held up to hate on scorn by the so-called representatives of the American press?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow you. You'll have to repeat that question again.
I don't know if I can. I think I said, how does it feel to be an artist who has given so much to now be an object of hate and scorn by these so-called representatives of the American press?
No comment. But thank you. Now, do we have any questions about the movie? The one I'm making now.
Actually, I have a question about the movie.
Yes.
What was it like to work with Keaton after all these years?
It was quite a pleasure, I must say. I think it turned out quite well. Whatever you write of me, please make sure to include this. I quite believe that when all is said and done, that Limelight will turn out to be one of the highlights of my career.
Scene 3, in the dressing room. Buster pretends to read from the Limelight script with a mock British accent to a laughing Beverly and Claire, who's in a ballerina costume.
And the lonely, longing universe must always tend to blah, blah, blah. We have a modicum of time on this orb, blah, blah, blah. This longing of this fragile human creature, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, stop, Mr. Keaton.
And I might be an old, decrepit, formerly famous man, but I am too wanting for your love, young ballerina Terry. Maybe if I joined your ballet.
Buster like a parody of the ballet. Everyone laughs unseen by them. Oona appears in the door. She scowls silently.
Perfect. That is perfect.
We shouldn't be laughing. What if Charles heard? Or Oona?
And oh, the pathos of my predicament. I could go on for hours, and from the looks of it, the script looks like I will.
I can't breathe. I'm dying.
Bravo, Mr. Keaton.
They called me the great stone face in my day because I never smiled on screen, and I can barely read this thing with a straight face. How did Charlie write this one? Did he cut and paste his way through a thesaurus? Do you have to speak this Momo Jumbo? What do you think of it? It's rather dense, wouldn't you say?
Well, this is just my second film. I don't know what I think.
Just your second film? And how do you like being a movie star so far?
I hardly feel like a star.
No? When this comes out, you'll be recognized on the street everywhere. People will point and say, isn't that the girl from Limelight? Isn't that all you ever wanted?
Oh, I don't know. I enjoy working. I enjoy acting. But sometimes when I watch Charlie and Oona together, well, she could have been an actress if she wanted, but she seems so happy being a wife, a mother. We're so similar. I wonder which one of us will be happier with our life. What do you think, Mr. Keaton? You've seen both sides.
I think that if you get even one taste, even one little drop of stardom, you will never want to let it go. After that, no amount of trouble, no amount of scandal, no amount of sorrow will drive it out of your blood. You still have time. If you want to get out, you need to do it now. If you don't, you'll always be wanting. That's why this 55-year-old has been still falling on his duff for a living. Because I can remember all the laughs from 40 years ago.
The tramp, Stoneface, and the girl mime an audience laughing.
Charlie remembers it too. And he wants it as much as I do. It's all through this script, this desire to get back on top again. The damn thing drowning in nostalgia. And why not? He loved it back when we were the kings of comedy. We invented Hollywood from the ground up. But when I lost the director's chair and Charlie, I don't know what Charlie's problem is. But maybe after this, he can go back to making people laugh again. Maybe we can both get on top before the lamplight fades for good.
Couldn't you walk away? You got enough money, right?
This is all I know. What the hell else am I gonna do? I'm still gonna live, so I'm gonna make people laugh. Same with Charlie. We were both hit with a makeup towel before we got out of diapers. That's all we know.
There's a line in the screenplay. I say to Calvero, I thought you hated the theatre. And then he says,
I also hate the sight of blood, but it's in my veins. That line I liked. There was also, there was another one too that was good. Let me see if I can find it. Calvero, well, Charlie says, time is the best author. It always writes the perfect ending.
I thought you didn't like the script.
I would like if I would like it more if there were less of it. This thing doubles as a paperweight.
Oh, good word. Would you look at the time? I should change out of this costume. I'm not needed for the next scene, so I get out of this ridiculous ballerina outfit. Would you believe Charles hired me before even seeing my legs, and I'm supposed to be a dancer? Luckily, they passed the test.
She's very young, of course. At some point, she'll learn that she shouldn't do that to men, no matter how old they are.
You men are always acting like boys.
Darn right. It's what makes the world go round. The Trojan War was fought over a woman. A face that launched 1,000 ships, the saying goes.
And how's my face? No one's fighting over me.
I'd say enough to launch 100 or so.
And what about Claire? Do you like her?
I'm a married man. I'm not supposed to like anybody.
You two were very funny yesterday.
I didn't have a scene with Claire yesterday.
No, you and Charlie. Charles. Definitely the most laughs we've ever had on set.
Well, it used to be that way every day, back when Charlie Chaplin was a comedian.
Oona enters in a sensible outfit.
But now he thinks he's an artiste. An overeducated, self-important blowhard who cares too damn much what people think of him.
Don't you care what people think of you?
Wow, that was a quick change.
Right. You really should take care in speaking on a movie set. You never know who will overhear. I would think both of you had been around movie sets long enough to realize that.
I know, Claire. I thought for a second there you were the old man's wife. It's scary how alike you two look. It's almost like he cast you because he looks like her.
Oona considers for a second, then goes along with Buster's misconception and speaks with her best British accent.
Well, we're often confused with one another. I can't tell you how many people have congratulated Oona on her performance or me on my famous husband. Isn't that right, Beverly?
Yes, Claire.
I was just saying that Charlie thinks he has to fight a war when all he needs to do is make a movie. You see, that's Charlie's problem these days. And there have been so many people that have called him a genius that he's starting to believe them.
What would you call him?
He's a schmuck like the rest of us, right? When you come right down to it.
I'm not sure you should be calling.
Don't get so shook up by the great Charlie Chaplin just because he likes to use big words. He's made as many screw-ups as the rest of us. He likes to play the poor little martyr, but he's as selfish as they come when you get right down to his core.
You don't think he's changed? Matured?
That's a load of hooey. A leopard doesn't change his spots. He'll always make movies because he needs to be in the spotlight. He'll always cause trouble because he loves the controversy. And he'll always chase women. I give this current one another 2 years tops before another one comes his way. Maybe he'll go for one of you.
Well, this has all been fascinating, but we should get back down to the business of the day. I was sent here by the head schmuck in charge, as you say, to tell you it's time to get back on set. They're ready for your scene.
Then I'll take my leave of you lovely ladies.
Buster exits with a tip of the cap. Claire smiles at Beverly.
He really is a fascinating fellow.
You know, I have to hand it to you. You're every bit as clever as your husband, Mrs. Chaplin.
It runs in the family. I was an actress, you know, but back when Charlie first met me.
Scene 4, recreation of the scene from Limelight. On the screen is projected the opening credit sequence for Limelight, written by Charles Chaplin, starring Charles Chaplin and Claire Bloom, with Buster Keaton, etc. From darkness, an enthusiastic announcement. And now, one more time, the great Calvero lights up to the reveal of vaudeville stage with a grand piano front and center. The Tramp and Stoneface enter frantically, made up to resemble their older counterparts. The Tramp wears baggy shorts, suspenders, a pot belly, and a thin mustache. Stoneface wears a white shirt with frills, thick glasses, and carries many music sheets. They bow, take their places. Stoneface, playing blind, walks into the back of the grand piano. The Tramp steers him to the seat. The Tramp stands front and center with a violin. Stoneface at the piano. Stoneface struggles getting his sheet music on the stand, having it tumble to the floor. He patiently tries to get them in order. The Tramp takes a step, his right leg mysteriously receding into his pant leg, as if it has suddenly shrunk to 1 foot long. The Tramp walks for a few steps to the back, eventually getting his leg to the correct length. He steps forward. His right leg again recedes into his pant leg, dangling in the air. Stoneface struggles getting his sheet music on the stand, having it tumble to the floor. The Tramp once again walks a few steps into the back. Eventually, he gets his leg to the correct length. He steps forward. His right leg again recedes into his pant leg, dangling into the air. Stoneface struggles getting his sheet music on the stand, having it tumble to the floor. The Tramp pulls on the leg, making it full length. Stoneface finally has the sheet music to stay on the stand. Stoneface plays a note on the piano. The Tramp tries to emulate it. The note is too high. A string of the violin breaks. They look into the piano. Buster takes some pliers and starts yanking around the wires. Scene 4, the screening room.
Beverly, write down that we should lengthen the reaction shot of me during Buster's sheet music business.
But Charles, I thought your costume wasn't matching in that
I
shot.
don't care, Beverly. Just make the note.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Charlie?
Yes.
What's wrong with the sound here?
What do you mean?
Well, when your character did his stage routines before in this movie, you had an audience reaction on the soundtrack, correct?
Correct.
Now there isn't any laughter on the track, and it sounds strange.
Oh. Well, we're alone in a screening room. When an audience in a movie theater sees the movie, they'll supply all the laughter and the noise that's needed. Thus, we don't need to add any unnecessary supplements to the scene.
I see. Charlie,
Yes?
what happens when it's shown in a half-empty or mostly empty movie theater?
Beverly, could you fetch us some more coffee?
Yeah, yes, sir.
I mean, then there won't be as much support laughter in the theater. It'll sound odd more than anything.
I don't design my movies to play in half-empty houses, you know.
Every movie will eventually run its course, Charlie.
Doesn't mean I should plan for failure. I plan for success, and thus, I achieve it. Come on now, pay attention to the film.
I've already sat through this thing for 2.5 hours. Filming it didn't take this long.
Do you like our sequence together?
I did. You left more in than I thought you would.
When it's as good as it turned out, you have little choice. However, I should hasten to add that I still have some editing to do.
You know, after we do that bit with the piano, pulling out all of its wires, there's no way the piano should be able to play.
Honestly, Buster, you sound like the script girl. Always on about continuity and idiot details. But Mr. Chaplin, you held your arm this way in the last setup. The continuity will be ruined. My dear, if the audience is paying attention to what my arm is doing, then the movie is terrible. I sometimes long for the days before script girls had been invented.
The golden days of comedy, eh? The good old days. If anyone else says it's like the old days, I'll jump out the window.
I've thought about what you've said, you know?
I tell you, Charlie, I haven't been able to sleep since we talked about this. This thing will be so great, it will shake Hollywood down to its core.
It's a good idea, I won't deny it.
That doesn't sound like you're saying yes.
I can't say yes, because I'm not sure what I will be able to do.
Why not? You're in great shape. I've worked with you, and you're more than fit.
I can't say yes because there's a very good chance I won't be in this country for much longer.
What? Why?
Oona enters.
Charlie, Rolly is ready to see you.
Thank you, darling. If you'll excuse me, Buster, I'll be back soon.
Wait, you can't leave me after that.
He won't be gone long.
What's so important that he has to leave right now?
He's saying goodbye. Rolly has been his cameraman for 40 years now, and Charles is telling him that they won't be making another movie together.
But why? It makes no sense.
Don't you read the papers? Don't you follow what's going on? We leave for England after the final edit to get to London for the premiere, and there's a good chance that the government won't let us back in the country once we leave American soil.
Are you serious?
Extremely serious. It's all over the papers. While Charlie's been filming, I've been getting the bank accounts changed to my name, getting power of attorney. They can bar Charles from the country, but I'm an American citizen. They can't stop me.
But you really expect that they'll do this?
Charles says he doesn't expect to ever set foot again in the country.
Then why are you two leaving if you know this already? If you don't leave, they can't bar you. Why throw away his career?
There are some things more important than a career. I'm glad that Charles knows this.
This is all part of his playing the martyr again. The little guy fighting the system. Why does he think he's so important? Why is he always leaving like that?
I don't know. Maybe he's not just a schmuck like the rest of us, when you come right down to it.
I said that to Claire. She told you?
No, you were talking to me. And like I said, I would have thought you would know how to behave on a movie set.
Oona exits. Buster loses his cool and kicks around some furniture. It's very unusual to see him react so.
Damn it, goddamn viper, that nosy little harpy!
Beverly enters carrying 2 coffee mugs.
Buster, what's wrong?
That lying wife of Charlie's is gonna ruin everything.
What is she going to ruin?
Our movie. Chaplin and Keaton, the greatest comedy team in history. But she's gonna blab. No, she already has blabbed. She's told him everything. Did you know about this? Did you?
Calm down.
You knew it wasn't her. You had to, and you let me talk.
Well, what was I going to do? She's my boss, too. Is it my fault that you couldn't keep your mouth shut, Mr. Silent Comedian?
You're right. This is my fault. This is all my fault. All I had to do was show up and do the job, and it would have been great.
I don't know what any of this is about. I really don't. But Charlie hasn't said anything to me about anything. Calm down.
I'll explain. I was just joking. She heard me wrong. It wasn't serious. It wasn't as bad as it sounds. I wasn't serious.
Well, I'm sorry for the delay. Rolly was... It was a bit emotional. I think he could tell it was coming, but you can never anticipate the impact of such things. But all things must come to an end.
Here's your coffee, sir. I need it elsewhere.
You don't have to do this, Charlie.
What? Leave America? I see Oona's let you in on that.
You can stay here. You can keep working. We can keep working.
The government doesn't act on these threats to deport me, I'll consider it. But I'm not going to stay in a country where I'm obviously not wanted.
This is all because you need to come off like Nostradamus all the time. If you just showed people a good time and shut up about politics, this country would love you again.
Don't talk to me about this country. I learned everything I needed to know about this country when they tried to censor my movie for making anti-Hitler statements. Anti-Hitler! And that while the Jews were dying, even now, the paranoid, narrow-minded zealots will not admit that I was right. This country...
You think all of America is corrupt and hateful, even racist?
Yes. Not all of it, but far too much of it.
Well, I'm American. Do you think that of me?
Not more than...
Just answer the question in English, Charlie.
Very well. In English. I remember a film of yours, 7 Chances. Your character needed to marry a woman, any woman, by 7 o'clock to inherit a fortune, and he was proposing to anything in a skirt. Young, old, pretty, ugly.
Stoneface walks across the stage, following the girl from behind. We do not see her face.
He sees a woman from behind. Comes up to propose to her. She turns around.
The girl turns around. She has a black face mask in front of her face. Stoneface stops abruptly.
You see she's a... You then turn around and try to find some other girl.
Stoneface and the girl exit.
So what? It's a joke, Charlie, a gag. What of it?
It wasn't right.
It's not about right. It's about what's funny. And people thought that was funny. I don't hate, but I do hate gags about everybody.
You don't have to cater to people's prejudice. If they were in my film, superstitious, and then the tramp was even more superstitious. When we're on screen, we have the world's attention, Buster. We must try to use it for good.
We're comedians, Charlie. What business do we have orating about world events?
Oh, yes, fine. I'm forgetting that I'm talking to the man who made a Civil War film and made the Southerners the heroes.
I suppose you didn't like Gone with the Wind very much either.
Don't get me started on that one. You know, you have considerable gall coming here as my guest to criticize my actions. I've had just about enough of it.
You've been a guest in this country for decades, and all you seem to do lately is criticize. I happen to be a citizen.
Being a guest does not mean I will forswear the use of my brain or my mouth.
Well, just don't be surprised where it gets you.
I can't believe this from you. When the First World War started, I traveled the country and performed, free of charge, to promote its war efforts. I donated my films to American soldiers before their commercial release.
And I was one of the troops that saw them. I fought in that war you promoted.
I was declared physically unfit to fight. I did what I could. I made a film for the war effort.
I know you did. Just remember that some of us did more.
God damn you, Keaton. God damn your American smugness. So you faced a bullet or two in World War I when you were 1940, when the Jews were being herded into ghettos, when the voice of hate was being parroted in this free country as well by the conquering hordes, when America couldn't decide whether to be with or against fascists. Where were you then, Buster?
Picking myself off the canvas, living.
If you had just been smart enough to avoid the canvas, you could have done a lot more than that. You could have flown.
What, make pompous speeches on subjects you know nothing about?
You may belittle my views, but every time I've spoken, it has been borne out by history to be absolutely correct. Every stand I took was the stance with people who had later wished they had taken. Hitler was an evil man, and I portrayed him as such. The Russians desperately needed our help in that war, and I said so. And the American fascists that persecute me now are in their way just as dangerous as the German ones. No good will come of their fear-mongering, public aggrandizement, and America will be a worse place for it. History will say it is true again.
Don't kid yourself, Charlie. History doesn't care about us. Some other new face will dance on the screen and entrance the people, and you will join me in the land of the obscure. You'll be just another guy people used to laugh at.
I've had 5 decades in the limelight, Keaton.
3 movies in the last 2 decades, that's real heavy lifting.
Well, you don't have to worry yourself about my output any longer. This movie, this wonderful film, is the sum total of my comedy, my art, my being. When history books look back at my career, that this film will be remembered as my greatest film. Something funny.
A knock at the door. Beverly sticks her head in.
Sir?
Wait outside a moment, Beverly.
Yes, sir.
And here I thought you lost your sense of humor. Oh, brother. Oh.
Do you have something to say about this film?
Do you think all those people in 1914 light up for blocks to watch you, for blocks and blocks to watch you lecture about the state of the world? They lined up because they knew that when they were with you, that you'd show them one hell of a good time. This is your greatest film. This isn't even a ripple in the pond, Charlie.
That was then.
It doesn't matter.
The world has changed.
Bull, the world doesn't change.
The people needed escape back then. They needed release. Now the world is corrupt and the leaders are wicked and the people need to be awakened. We must speak.
The world loved you because you didn't speak. How do you not know that after all this time? You made a sad expression on your face, and it said more than 1,000 of Shakespeare's words. But once you started to talk, you just never shut up.
It wasn't me they loved, it was the tramp.
Tramp was you.
It was not me. You of all people should know that.
But the tramp was the part of you that other people knew in their hearts. The tramp was a true thing that you didn't have to explain. The people on the street, they knew your mime routines by heart. Do you think they'll come up and recite your damn flowery monologues? You're making movies with your head now. You were better when you were making them by the seat of your pants.
Are you saying that you don't like my movie?
Lord, Charlie, this movie, you preach about a lot of mumbo jumbo I can't understand. And the ballet dancer not being able to walk until you, I don't know, give her a cosmic pep talk. that didn't make sense. The stage routines were all right, but nothing that Harold Lloyd couldn't do on a good day. The ending was barrel full of sap, and the whole thing was about an hour too long. The normal folk aren't gonna take to it. That auto worker in Michigan, that farmer in Duluth you were talking about, what does this have to do with that?
Beverly, come in, please.
Beverly enters.
Yes, Mr. Chaplin.
What did you need to say?
Oh, Mr. Keaton, your wife, she's come to pick you up.
Tell her I'll be along.
Yes, sir.
Beverly, wait one moment.
Yes?
You saw the movie.
Which one?
The one we're making now.
Oh, yes, sir.
Now, this is important. Important. Do you tell me the truth about this, the absolute truth?
Of course, sir.
Did you like it? The movie? My movie?
It's obviously a fine.
Did you like it? How would you feel if you were a farmer, an auto worker, and you paid money to see that movie?
Well, I suppose.
No, I don't need your diplomacy.
I'm sorry, sir. You've just never really asked me for my opinion before.
Haven't I? Well, that's a shortcoming on my part then.
Really?
After all, it's people like you who buy the tickets and who decide that this one is a star and this one is a bum. It's people like you who elect presidents, God help us. It's people like you who send some people to jail and some out into the streets. Good God, do you have any idea what people like you are capable of?
No, and you're making me nervous talking to me like this.
Take your time. Just render me your opinion.
I couldn't follow all of it, sir.
Which parts?
Some of the speeches, you go into philosophy, the human condition, politics. I liked the sentiments, of course. I read them, I hear them, but I don't know. The movies I really like, I want people I can relate to. Oh, and when you're on stage performing, that thing with the flea circus, that was pretty funny.
Thank you, Beverly.
I'm sorry.
You told me exactly what I asked for. You may leave.
Mr. Chaplin, I know that this is a good film. I mean, you made it and all, but maybe you didn't make the film for people like me. And that's fine. You should do what you want, right? It's a free country. You folks have earned it. That's all.
The public has spoken.
So it seems.
The public is wrong.
Charlie.
I'm supposed to listen to a nobody?
What about your little speech there? If enough nobodies buy movie tickets, yes, that's exactly who you should listen to.
This doesn't mean I'm going to work with you. I'm going to make the movies I need to make. There's a battle going on for the soul of this world, and that has to come first before art or laughter.
The Tramp and Stoneface come on, dressed as boxers. The girl is the referee. They recreate some business from the prize fight scene in City Lights, with the Tramp moving behind the referee and Stoneface becoming confused.
And so you'll make movies that will be forgotten 2 weeks after they open. If you go to Singapore and Shanghai today dressed in a bowler cap and cane with your little mustache, they'll know what you're about. They imitate your funny walk in deepest, darkest Africa. You know this. Do you think anyone will memorize your flowery monologue 20 years from now? Heck, 20 days from now.
I can't do otherwise.
Oh, but you can. That's the sad part about all this. You can, but you just won't do it.
That's in the past. The Tramp, the pratfalls, it's all in my past. I must go forward.
Don't you realize how big this would be? This is Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb hitting back to back. The press would eat this up with a spoon. Now, how did this unique undertaking come about, Mr. Chaplin? Well, Buster and I, we were having such a delightful time on the set of your film, and we decided to make 3 more. Front page of Variety, Charlie, in 80-point type.
You're trying to seduce me, and it's not going to work. There are things that are more important than movies.
Name 1.
The Tramp knocks Stoneface down, and the girl raises his hand. The Tramp and the girl stare lovingly at one another.
The girl. I'm doing this for the girl. Just think of my whole life as a movie, Buster. I came from nowhere, had a bit of talented and a lot of luck. I did lots of good deeds, went through some rough times. I've been up and down. I just want to get out on top and leave the rest on the cutting room floor. I've earned my happy ending, don't you think?
You have. I want one too.
Well, I can't give it to you. I'm leaving America, Buster. And I have made my last film. I fully expect that I will live out my life quietly with Oona.
And I wouldn't put my life in her hands either.
What now? What could possibly make you say that?
Look, the things she's been telling you about me, that they aren't true. They were just misunderstandings. You gotta believe me. I don't know why, but she has it in for me.
Buster, Oona hasn't told me anything about you. Nothing at all.
Why that?
What's so funny?
She's a very clever woman. Sometimes you can get what you want by not saying anything at all.
As a silent comedian, I thought you already knew that.
So I guess there won't be a second act for Charlie and Buster's comedy cavalcade.
I hope you understand.
Guess I'll have to.
And I need to tell you that I'm thinking of trimming down our scene.
What? But it's funny. It's all funny every second.
Yes, it is, but I have to see this movie as a whole. I need our scene to be funny. That's why I hired you, after all. It will be the last funny scene of my career, and my sense of nostalgia will put you in mind. The fact that you still had your wits about you was an added bonus, but you made it too funny. We were too funny together, and I didn't anticipate that.
What's wrong with that?
There is serious business to be done in this movie to go along with the laughter. There is laughter and tears in this film, and there is both on the cutting room floor as well. I must do what's best for the film.
You know, that actually makes some sense to me.
Yes?
I hate to interrupt again, but Mr. Keaton's wife threatened to sock me in the mouth if I didn't get Buster down there right now, so...
Well, my wife is waiting, and I should bid adieu. Will this really be the last time?
This may be. Only God or Edgar Hoover ever knows for sure. Will you be all right? I hope this won't hurt your pocketbook.
Oh, by no means. I'm a busy man. I'm shooting commercials for a soap company, a beer company, and a cigarette company in the next 2 weeks. And I have a return engagement on my television show and maybe another stint with that circus in France.
It should be something to see.
Mr. Chaplin?
Mr. Keaton.
Grasp hands and shake heartily. Buster turns to Beverly.
Miss Beverly, do you have an assignment after this production wraps up?
No, I don't, Mr. Keaton.
Well, I have this television series coming up.
They all exit. The girl enters. Stoneface and the tramp take positions upstage of her.
This was to be Charlie Chaplin's last movie in America. In 1952, after the completion of Limelight, Chaplin boarded a ship to Europe for a vacation. He was soon notified by the United States government that he would not be let back in without appearing before a special panel. Chaplin refused and remained in exile for 20 years, but he did make 2 more films while living in Europe. They were not successful. In the next few decades, Buster Keaton worked constantly, appearing on other people's projects, playing in TV shows, commercials, movie cameos, up until weeks of his death. But he never again starred in a hit movie.
The tramp steps on Stoneface's foot, lifts his hat in apology.
In 1960, Buster Keaton wrote his autobiography, entitled My Wonderful World of Slapstick. In it, he wrote that nobody ever made me laugh as did Charlie with his little tramp.
Stoneface makes his most remembered stance, leaning forward, his hand at his brow to shield his eyes from the sun, scanning the horizon ahead.
In 1964, Charles Chaplin wrote his autobiography, entitled My Autobiography. Buster Keaton was not mentioned, but neither were many friends and longtime associates.
The tramp takes up a few meager belongings and a handkerchief. He ties it on the end of his cane and shuffles away into the horizon, his most frequent ending.
In his last years, Chaplin made peace with America, with his time, and even with television. He was knighted by the Queen of England. He died on Christmas Day, 1977. Shortly after, his corpse was stolen by two bandits hoping to hold it for ransom. They did not succeed. Oona Chaplin never recovered from his death, becoming an alcoholic late in life.
The Tramp and Stoneface freeze in their poses.
Buster Keaton died in 1966. He had with him his wife, a pack of cards, and a rosary, so that he would be prepared no matter what direction he was heading. Unlike Chaplin, his death was not a holiday, and no one stole his corpse.
Buster freezes.
Limelight opened to mixed reviews and a small box office success. It is not considered one of Chaplin's best movies. But in 1951, when Charlie Chaplin needed a comedic partner for the pivotal scene in what would be his last movie in America, he thought of Buster Keaton. Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, on the set of Limelight.
Chaplin freezes. The girl exits. The Tramp and Stoneface unfreeze from the poses, turn to each other, and bow slow and respectfully in each other's direction. They bow to the audience and exit. The end. Wow. God. All right. So that was Chaplin and Keaton on the set of Limelight by Greg Lamb. Wow. Once again, let's give it up for this amazing cast. Playing Charles Chaplin and the Tramp, we got Ryan Pangracs. Playing Buster Keaton and Stoneface, we got Nicky Maddalina. Playing Beverly, we got Paige Cummings. And playing the girl, Claire Bloom, Oona Chaplin, Caroline Turner. I'm your host, Sam Sommer. Once again, if you want to make any donations, is in the link. Today's the last day for our portions going to the Black Arts Network, and we'll have a next one for the next time. And yeah, we'll see you next week. If I'm correct, we're going to be reading a play called Area 51. So hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you guys so much. Goodbye.